Hey, what's going on? Another weekend. I'm here in the shop. Well, so far, I've got two videos out right now. It's going pretty good. I feel like it's going good anyways. Some days I feel like I'm going backwards, but today we feel like I'm really going forwards. So I can show you what I got going on here. Today, I'm working on link bars for the rear, setting up the 4Link, trying to get everything set up the way I want it. Hey, welcome to the channel. I'm Caleb Morrison. This is Caleb's Diesel and Fabrication. If you like fabricating stuff, if you like working on diesel vehicles, this is a great place to be because we're going to do it all. You know, the great thing about YouTube, and I've been pretty fortunate because sometimes I have extra time to study this stuff, but the great thing about YouTube, and I know you guys know this, but if you are needing information, if you need something, normally you can get on YouTube and somebody's already done it. Someone's already kind of been in the same boat that you're in, and luckily there's a lot of guys on YouTube, a lot of guys on forums that have put 4Links on trucks, Jeeps, you name it. Geo trackers, Metros. Like, I've seen some 4Link kits on some crazy stuff. It's a great suspension system. So there are some rules you kind of need to go by. I got a lot of my stuff from Off-Road Design, pretty much this whole truck basically, but also I've got a lot of this stuff that's come from Barnes 4-Wheel Drive, and also Artec Industries. I got some stuff from Rough Stuff Specialties, a whole bunch of stuff. But anyways, today I opened up all the boxes. This is from Off-Road Design for the front 4Link setup. I got my rock jock joints, I got my panhard bar, I've got my link brackets for the front. It's all here. These brackets are made for an 89 to 91, I believe, Dana 60. They're going to go on the front of the axle, but I got to do a little bit of trimming to make it work because they don't offer a kit for this Super Duty Dana 60. So I got to do a little bit of work there, but it's nothing. It's just a little bit of cutting and welding, no big deal. So I've got my axle centered up in the truck. Took me a while to get it all done, but I'll show you how I did that. So I went ahead and measured from the frame side, which I marked it with this piece of angle iron, and it is right at 11 3/4 on this side to the brake rotor. So the reason why I did the brake rotor is because if you look, it's kind of hard to tell, but maybe on camera you can't see it, but if you look down here, you can kind of see where the pumpkin for the back, or the diff, is kind of over to the driver's side. Well, that's how this axle is. The tube on the driver's side is shorter that goes out. Well, the main thing is I'm trying to get this centered up with the front one and get it centered on the truck. So, like I said, I measured it. We got this one. It's right at 11 3/4. It's pretty close. So that's good. And then also, since my cab is one of the only things stock that I know hasn't moved, I measured from the cab back to this caliper, and looks like we are at 44 3/4. And I did the same thing on this side. Got it all measured up. It's exactly the same. Okay, so you also see I've got a jack underneath there. That's kind of safety. I also use this angle to hold this axle at full bump. So it matches the full bump of my front axle, which is important because you want the truck to sit level even though it'll be tall, which that's what I did. I matched the bump, which is full bump, which means the compressed system of the suspension will be all the way up against the frame. And I got a little over 2 foot of clearance, but you've got to remember that this will come down 7 inches because I have a 14-inch coilover shock. So it'll come down 7 inches from where it is right now. So we are at, looks like 1 foot 10 inches right there. So it's going to come down 7 inches, and then the tire will be some of the lift So you got to take that into consideration. So another thing I'm really thankful we got YouTube is I learned that, you know, your pinion angle really depends on what you're doing. You know, this is not a drag car. This is not your normal run-of-the-mill everyday driver vehicle. This is a vehicle that has a lot of suspension movement. And the reason why that you set your pinion angle at a higher spot, normally, you know, on a regular passenger car, you're going to be at a negative pinion angle, so when you hit the gas, it actually comes up and it's where it needs to be. Well, this truck in particular, because it's a rock crawler and it has much suspension travel, it needs to be in line with the transfer case, so you guys can see the output of the transfer case right there. So if you look, you can kind of visualize the drive shaft being right there. Also, I have a double Cardone drive shaft. So what that means is I'm gonna have way more flex. It's not as big of a deal on the U-joints, and it's made for the severe angle. So the 4-link kit allows you to move the suspension up and down, and so you don't really necessarily have to worry about it binding up, especially with the amount of you know, the amount of room that you're going to have inside of there. So another thing I got going on is I'm working on mounting my bottom links, which they go kind of like this. I put this piece of bar up here, that way I can measure from the top of my link brackets to my bottom link brackets, and I want about 10 inches of separation, so that's what I'm going for. Another thing is I'm going to check my angle of my bottom link whenever it's at ride height. I'm hoping that it's around 10 degrees. I don't want much more than that. It's just going to be a smoother ride if I keep it around that 10 degree mark. Got my pinion angle set. It's like 12 degrees, so it's about where I want it to be. I got my axle, I got my brackets for my 4-link set up, all welded in. It's all done. They're braced up. They're ready to be put on. So also these angles are holding this axle in place, so I don't have to worry about it moving. Because once you get this set, it took me a little over an hour to get this axle set exactly where I wanted it, but I've got it where I want it now and I'm happy with it. So well, I don't know when the camera turned off, but I'm learning. I'm still getting better at this. Hit my hand pretty good with the hammer. That always makes you super happy. It'll feel a lot better when it stops hurting. All right, so here we are. We're working on bottom links. So let's go check this out real quick. I've got some tubing left over from my roll cage, so I'm able to use these kind of as a mock-up. But see how I got that link sitting there? I did a lot of beating to get that one in. Probably could have been a little better, but you can see we're going to be welding that in. So basically I just need to get a measurement on this side and a measurement on that side. Get ready to start cutting. She's coming together slowly but surely. Got a new battery, so we're in to win it now. can see these Heims, they got a spacer on them. Well, I had to use the old 4-pound sledge, widen these out so the Heim fits inside. So another deal. It's fabricating for a reason. So, funny story, people give me a hard time because I wear these types of safety glasses that are fully boxed in, but I had the smaller kind that kind of look like sunglasses, but the problem is with those, they still let stuff into the side. So I don't care how dorky I look, as long as nothing gets in my eye, I'm happy. Last summer, I was using a cutting torch with those glasses. I guess a hot piece of metal ricocheted off something, and man, it got me good. So I had to go to the hospital. All right, anyways, battery died, but I don't care how dorky I look. As long as I don't get nothing hot, metal in my eye, I'm happy. So I rock these. Actually got them from my wife. Her dad used to be a machinist, and they wear them, so I wear them too. Here we go. Time to do some measuring and some cutting. Time to go fit it all before we finish weld it. In the past, I would just welded it up, but I've learned, measure it a couple of times, check it again, then weld it. Yeah, you can help me clean up and help Dad with this project. Thank you. I appreciate your help. All right, you could say things are getting pretty serious right now. Man, it just feels good to get these parts on here, and you just feel like you're getting, something done. It's dark outside, but that's all right, because I got all my 4-link bars on there, but I don't have them welded up. So what's cool is you can look and see, this is the Heim joint. It goes up, this bar follows up to that bracket and goes right there. So these Heim joints, they can be adjusted. See, this goes out, then you twist the bar, and you can actually change the angle of, the ride, up and down for the pinion, or you can change the back and forth of the axle if it needs to be changed because it's not tracking like it's supposed to. So if you look up here, you can see how those bars meet the front brackets up there, kind of makes a triangle there, and then these bars, if you look straight down, it triangulates out. So that's where you get your strength from. I got this kit from Barnes for the 4-link in the back. And man, I'm really pleased with it. This is the second one I've done. It works out pretty good. And so what I got to do next is I got to pull these off since they're all on there and they're working like they're supposed to, and they're all going to fit. I'm going to pull these off, and then I'm going to weld all the way around on the front and the back here. It's looking really good. I got enough threads that I can make adjustments if I need to. I tried to do an average of 4 or 5 threads on each one, and turned out pretty good. I don't have everything completely welded up yet. I just really wanted to get the links on, but you can see those brackets go right there. It bolts in there. It's going to be really heavy duty. I'm really happy with it. So tomorrow I can do some welding on it and get that all done. It's kind of funny. You see guys on YouTube, you see all kinds of different things, but you see guys take a countersink and drill holes in this and put fillet welds in each one of these tubes. And I mean, I understand that might have some sand to it, but in my opinion, if you get a really good weld on here and you weld hot, that's how I learned how to weld, is hot. You got to move quick, but if you got a good machine, you can really burn in the welds. You should not have to worry about that. So I'm going to burn those in super hot. Can't wait. And that's going to be done. And then what's great about welding all this in is I'll be able to take these brackets off right here and put my tires on over here on the back, and I can set this axle down on the tires and see how it's going to look. So I'm getting super excited. I ran out of daylight in the sense of Olivia's cooking dinner and about time to eat. Another thing I want to show you guys is they make a tool. It's a deburring tool for these tubes when you cut it, because when you cut a piece of tube, where your saw blade goes through, it'll have these little pieces of slag or mill scale hanging off here, and they make a deburring tool that goes in here and goes around and cleans that up. Well, I don't necessarily need every tool in the world, but I just took a piece of this cut off bar stock that I have. And what's cool is you can actually move this around and use that tool and deburr that whole tube. And this didn't cost me anything. This is literally a piece of 3/8 plate that I've cut down, and I made my own deburring tool. So, man, I try to save money where I can, and that kind of makes sense to me. So it's all coming together. Thanks for joining me out on this. Tomorrow we'll be working on welding it up, and hopefully I'll get some video of all the links in there welded up tight and solid, and then we'll be throwing the tires on there. I'm really excited. Thanks. So got the NSCs on there, got my weld all the way on the joint. It's looking pretty decent. Some people like countersink in the back and try to get it where it's got a couple fillet welds, but honestly, if you weld it hot enough and you weld it decent enough, you don't need fillet welds. Lucky enough on the trail, I'll have a welder on this truck. So if I need to, I can fix it on the trail, but I doubt I'm gonna have that trouble. So these lock nuts are pushed down, they look good. Got the NICs on there so it's not all caught up. So that's good, that'll help me later on down the road. This is the bottom link, so it's a little bit thicker. So that worked out good. The key is making sure you get a good weld. So you can see it's coming along. I got some of my brackets welded up. Here, I still got to do some on the top there, but you can see where it hooks in there down at the bottom. So coming together, getting there. You're probably asking yourself, why is the axle out from underneath the front of the truck again, and why is it on my welding table? Well, the reason why it's on my welding table is I have to put on these 4-link brackets that are not really made for this Super Duty Dana 60. So I got the 4-link brackets from Off-Road Design. I'll show you here. So this is designed for late 80s, early 90s Ford Dana 60. You can kind of see they're made to fit. It goes around the axle, you can see. It's got the holes cut for the axle tube. The problem is this axle tube is quite a bit bigger than this Dana 60 axle tube from the early, 90s. So I'm gonna make it work. Got tired of waiting, so here I am. So fabricating, as I've said in the past, is called fabricating for a reason. So here we are. So I'm going to be putting these brackets on today. The most important thing about putting these brackets on is making sure that they're level. So the best way to get it level is to put it on something that is level, which is my table, and then get the axle level and then set it on there, because you want the brackets on this axle to be completely level. That way when your suspension is going up and down with the 4-link system, that it's easy to set and everything is completely level on the axle. So when you set one side, the other side should be exactly the same. I'm gonna have to do quite a bit of cutting to get it to fit, but right now I'm working on cutting the coilover bucket bracket off the Super Duty Dana 60. So I left it on there because I thought I might use it. I wasn't 100% sure. So on the Super Duty axles, when they come from the factory, the Ford setup, it has, trailing arm on the front, or kind of like a link bracket, but it's more of a trailing arm on each side goes back. Well, it's a big, huge piece. And then on the sides, it has a coilover with the shock in it, and that goes up to like a shock hoop mount, like coilover bucket mount, up underneath the fender wells, and that goes up and down. Well, it has a bracket that is bolted on to the coil mount bracket. It's bolted, and so I'm cutting those off. I'll show you that real quick. So this is one that I've already cut off what it looks like. You can kind of see it shaved down to fit the clearance. This one I'm working on cutting. All right, the battery died, we're back. So you can see on this side that the coil mount bracket, or the spring bracket, it has a bolt up here, and that it holds the little bracket with the coil spring that goes up here and goes up to the coil buckets. So obviously on my truck, I'm not going to need that. So here I am, I'm trimming it off. I'm going to have to do a little bit of fine tuning with the grinding disc and sanding disc to get it where it needs to be, but I started to cut it off. Anyways, so this bracket, coil bracket, for the 4-link, it's supposed to sit in here kind of like that. Well, as you can see, that hole for the Dana 60 from the late 80s, early 90s is quite a bit smaller. So I'm going to end up, I'm going to have to go ahead and cut some of this. My goal is to trim this piece so that it kind of fits closer somewhere in that section right there. So as you can see, it's going to take quite a bit of moving and maybe cutting this bracket a little bit apart and making this wider in there, but that's the goal. So I'm just starting off what I know to do, and that is cut these brackets off and then make them smooth, shave them down. I'm not trying to hurt the overall strength of this axle. I'm just trying to get it to where that mount will go over it. Now obviously, like on this side, it's got a piece to where, you know, on the Dana 60 you can actually use a U-bolt, and that's how Off-Road Design makes the brackets, so you can actually use the U-bolts and you don't have to weld these on if you don't want to the pinion itself. So you can bolt it on the outside and then weld it tube side, this, you know, on the actual axle that's steel. So that's where I'm at right now. I got this one cut off, I'm cutting this one off, and it's going smooth. I'm just trying to get it all done, and I got to clean it up and do a little bit of welding on this, and I'm going to get these brackets put on. That's kind of my goal today. I got Craig working on over here, finishing up the frame. We're stiffening it up with the 3/8 plate that I have. It's going pretty good. I got my 4-link completely set up. The brackets, the bars, they're all welded in tight. I'm pretty happy with that. You can see Craig's been working on this piece right here, goes on the frame. So we're going to use that to go inside in front of the transmission, fully box it in. So you can see we got that piece looking pretty good. You can see the 4-link bar. So right here, this is a piece of angle, and all this is doing for the moment is just holding it at ride height. I got to come up a little bit and then mount my coilover brackets, and then my shock mount hoops that go to the top, over the top, and then my tabs that go down here. So pretty excited. I'm waiting on a few things from Barn 4-Wheel-Drive to come in, mainly the hoop brackets, so I can build those. I really like to be able to get this rear end sitting on the ground, but I'm just doing a little bit at a time. So that's kind of where we're at. The front looks bare again like it was because I had to take it apart. So here we are. I'm going to get you going on this. You guys can see what we got going on.